Hey everybody, and welcome to Bowens. Here we are. We're going to do another webinar in our series, and today it's kind of fun for me because it's all about kids. I know a lot of you are out there doing children's portraits, and you know, like I know, that there's nothing quite like that. The energy that you get off of photographing little ones is pretty fun, and it's pretty contagious when you've got them when they're animated. They can be a challenge, and we all know that, especially those 2-year-olds. But isn't it fun? It's a great thing to do. So what we wanted to talk about today a little bit is just a few little tips and tricks here and some things that we do that might help you along the path of making a little bit better picture. And I wanted to show you some new ideas and maybe some thoughts about lighting kids that you might not normally think might work. It's a great day for this, I think. There's a lot of new exciting things going on in the industry, but what doesn't happen and what doesn't change is the need for these photographs of these little ones. We've got to photograph our kids. So this is heavily, this show is heavily about you. So we'll show a little video clip, come back to me, and I'll take some questions, and we're going to go to another video clip, another shoot, come back, and I'll take some more questions. But I also wanted to mention, be sure to check in on our teambowens.com, our new blog. We try to participate in that blog at least 2 or 3 times a week. And we're posting a lot of great free information there, all about lighting and all about education of lighting. So hopefully that's real helpful for you. So I think just sit back and relax for a few minutes. I think this first little video segment's around 4 or 5 minutes, and it's going to feature our little 2-year-old named Grace, and Grace is amazing. This little girl walked in the studio, and she was smiling when she walked in, and she was smiling when she walked out. So she was pretty terrific. So sit back, enjoy a few minutes with Grace, and take a close look at how we light her, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the video. So stay tuned, folks. Anytime you take on the role as a photographer for children, you got to bring your A game. There's a couple of things that you'll notice about today. One is I got down on the ground. You cannot shoot down on kids. Another thing is, as you'll see from the pictures, I tried to leave some good space around this little girl. She's precious. And I also know that I've got her attention for about 3 minutes. So the first outfit that we shot for about 3 minutes, and while she was still up and still friendly and still on a good roll, we stopped, we shut it down and changed clothes. And then brought her back in. She was still in a pretty good mood, and we went until we started losing her a little bit. And that was another 3 or 4 minutes. That's what you get. I don't care if you block off a half a day, you're gonna get their attention for a little short snippet of time. So you've just got to keep your energy level up while you're working. Now, let's talk a little bit about lighting. And so the way I lit this is, if you'll notice, on the right side of my camera, I created a bank of light. I've got 2 soft boxes that basically are butted up against each other, making one very long, wide source of illumination. And the reason for that is I don't want to move. I don't want her to worry. I don't want to have to worry about whether or not she's going to get hit with light. I don't want to worry about precision, surgical strike, or surgical lighting. I need to make sure that what she's doing for me, no matter what she's doing there, I'm getting good light on that face. And so as long as I kept her face turned to my right side of my camera, I've got gorgeous light, great catch lights, and she can't miss. I can't miss. Now in the background, I've got another light, and that's an umbrella, and I've got it at a -1 below whatever I was shooting at. And I've got it feathered so it's hitting the background, and it's also acting as a little subtle separation. As you can see the angle that I've got it tweaked at just a little bit to hit the side of her hair, her cheek, her shoulders, just a little. I don't want much of it, but I do want a little kiss of that light for separation. But the main thing is I did this with 2 main lights with no reflector, no fill light, and I think we're fine. It looks great on her. Usually with kids you want a flatter ratio. A 2-to-1, a 3-to-1, maybe a 4-to-1 if it's a low-key traditional portrait, or 5-to-1. But for the most part, you want a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio with kids' faces, just because they're light, and they should be light and airy, and you should be able to see good detail. Overall, I think we did okay today. The pictures that we were shooting, to me, look sensational. And while you're viewing this, I'm seeing all these pictures flying through this camera. And there's not very many that are stinkers. I always think of my pictures from a session like this as the heroes and the stinkers. Some call them the winners and the losers. For me, it's the heroes and the stinkers. And I'm not going to see a lot of stinkers here. So we've got a lot of great pictures here, and I think we'll find something really, really nice for this family. And I think they're going to like what we did.
Put your feet up like that.
look at mine. Where's mine going? I'm way perfect. You know, it's always fun. Like I say, when you get that age group, she's 2, and boy, does she have some energy. One of the questions that came in while the video was playing was if I would expand more on that wall of light, on the idea of putting those 2 softboxes together. And that came about years ago on a little shoot we did with a family where we wanted this big soft source, and we needed it to be directional. But I didn't have a source that large, but I did have 3 softboxes. So I just lined them up side by side and just let them touch each other. Now, you know, people always say, well, what about that line between them? You really won't see that line. The only place that you'll see the line is if they're holding a wine glass, or if there's a wine bottle, or something dark and shiny in the scene. Then you would see that line. Also, if you zoomed in really close on the catch lights, you would see a little bit of a line where there's a difference between the softboxes. And on Grace, there was one close-up I noticed that ran through that you could see just a little bit of the line. You'd need to be a photographer that knew what you were looking for, but that's a reflection. The catch light is a specular light source, so it is a mirrored image. A specular highlight, by the way, is defined as a mirrored image of whatever created the highlight. So the catch lights in the eyes are nothing more than little small specular highlights, and they tell you a lot. But this idea was to create a big, large, soft area of light that my subjects can move around in. They can move, you know, several inches forward, backwards, left, right, and the exposure really won't change, nor will the light quality change. So it just gives us a big safety ground, a kind of a big safety net within which to work for a 2-year-old who's pretty active. But you can see she was great. So let me check the questions again here. Here's one that just came in. How important is it or necessary to have props and costumes in working with kids? I think that's a great question. I think it's going to depend a lot on you and the type of business model that you are interested in for yourself. I know that there's a studio in Houston, Texas called Eden Studios, for example, and they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of costumes and props for kids. And that's all they do, are kids, and they probably do 15 kids a day. There are some studios that keep old antique clothing for kids. It kind of depends on the model of business that you wish to develop. A friend in North Carolina has a business where he's got several antique dresses that he uses for his little kids. And then there's another friend that's in the West Coast that has some light pastel tonality dresses, some beige, some cream color things that will flow in the breeze. And they take the kids out on the beach all the time and out in the wind and let these dresses blow. So I think it's up to you. Props. You can get a little too kitschy. I think you can get a little bit too proppy if you're not careful. And you don't want, you know, in many cases, you don't want to look like the 99-cent photography, you know, in a department store, if you're trying to work at a higher level. But just be careful, and props are great, but just be careful about using something that's just too cutesy. I got real tired of a white wicker chair, a white wicker basket a long time ago. It's been done a lot. And, you know, if moms come in requesting it, if that's what you're after, that's great. But be a little bit careful about that, because you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble. So, can you discuss the placement of your backdrop light a little bit more, including why you lit it from the side rather than frontally? You know, I'm a little bit different than some photographers in that I started out with the traditional setup, and my mentors and the people that trained me, we did a 5-light setup. We had, you know, a main light, a fill light, a background light, a hair light, and an accent light. And that background light always was behind our subject's shoulders, shoulder height, firing straight into usually a brown painted master's canvas type of background. And that's all great for traditional and in lower key portrait photography. But one year I decided to try something new and different, and I just took my background light, and instead of it being a small source, I increased the size and put a softbox on it, and I moved it off to the side. And I created this great gradation of light across my backdrop, which I loved. And then what I found out was working with softer fabrics. Most of my backdrops I use today are those wrinkle-free fabrics from White House, Custom Color, WHCC. If you go into WHCC backdrops, you'll see what I'm talking about. But they're soft and pliable, and I'll go up about eye level height on one side, and I'll just start rolling it up, and then I'll clamp it with a clip. And it gives me this really nice draping effect. With that draping effect, if I'm lighting from one side, it creates a lot of dimension across my background. It's really a nice look. But if I'm lighting flat into it from the center, then I lose all that density and I'm sorry, not density, but I lose all of that depth. And generally, I'm trying to create depth, not flatten depth out. So sometimes your backgrounds, the job that you're doing might require a flat backdrop. And then sometimes it's up to you, and you can create some drama back there by having light coming from different angles. So I think it's worth taking a good look at. Do I ever use attention getters like toy clickers? Yeah, I think that's a real good idea. There's a great guy in Salt Lake City, Utah, who sells these little clickers they used to sell them, I'm not sure if he still does, but little clickers, and they just small little palm things, just click, 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 and they'll get attentions of dogs and kids as well. So they're little squeakers, and they're pretty great. What's the ultimate size of the softboxes collectively? Well, the softboxes, they were about 30 by 40 softboxes. So, and I had them vertically side by side. So it's 60-inch by 40-inch. So that was the size basically. And while it doesn't seem like it's too huge, it was pretty close to Grace, and she's pretty small. So it might not be the appropriate size collectively for a group of 5, but for one little girl, it was a pretty big size source, and it worked out pretty well for me. I'm talking about the ratio. The question came in, can you tell me about the lighting ratio? The ratio with a large source like that, it almost came in at about a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio without having to do anything else. And that's kind of what I'm looking for often in kids. I really don't want it to be too dramatic. Now the next segment that we're about to do, you are going to see a little bit higher ratio, and that's the next portrait that's coming up, and I'll just introduce that a little bit. Jack is Grace's older brother, and in fact on that last shot you can see at one segment you could see Jack sitting next to me, and he was helping me get getting some expressions from his baby sister. Wasn't really necessary. You could tell by looking at Grace, she had her own expressions with her. She brought them with her. She's great. It was just fun. And so this next section, let's talk about Jack. And Jack is now, so we went to a 2-year-old, now we're at a 7-year-old. Jack's got this perpetual smile, and I think you're going to enjoy what we did with him. I can't take a bad picture of Jack. I don't know that anybody that could. But with him, we spent a little bit more time on accent lighting and light being a little bit more directional with a little bit of a higher ratio. And with his face and his smile and his eyes gleaming, it just kind of came together real nicely. Take a look at this section, and then start thinking about some more questions while this is playing. And get right back to me, and I'll go through and double check and see if there's any questions that I missed. Thanks, everybody. Be right back with you. So for this next segment, we're going to photograph a little 7-year-old boy named Jack, who's a great-looking kid, good, healthy-looking all-American boy. And, you know, I was thinking about how to light him a little bit different. So we're going to use some different tools here. I'll use a medium-sized softbox on him as a main light. And then for his accent, I really want to do a kind of a twin strip light sort of thing coming forward. So there will be 2 lights coming forward, both with grid spots, honey egg crate grids. And the reason for that is, you know, we need to, anytime we've got lights coming toward our camera, I think egg crate grids are a good idea. Or if you're on a small reflector head, grid spots, either a 10, 20, 30 degree, whatever you've got is a good idea for protection's sake, to protect your lens. I mean, it really, really will spread light around, and there's a chance it can hit that lens. And as much as the manufacturers talk about stray light protection and the palpus on the inside of the lenses and all those features built into our lenses and our optics and our camera bodies, flare is still a big issue, and flare is the #1 reason for killing your contrast. So we really want to avoid that as much as we can, and I will encourage you to use your lens shades, even in the studio. Even if the sun's not about to hit you in the lens, still use your lens shades for helping with that stray light. And then it's also a protection if you drop your camera. So we've all done that. You know, one thing I did want to also mention on equipment-wise, I'm working with my 5D Mark III, but lens-wise, Everybody I know is pretty wild about their 7200 2.8 lens. And I've shot with 7200 2.8 lenses for many, many years. This time I went and got the 7200 f4 lens from Canon. It's got IS, it's got all the things that we need on it, all the features and bells and whistles, and it's a great, great lens. It's also about half or more than half less the weight than the 7200 2.8, and it's about $1,200 or $1,400 less in cost. And the sharpness is crazy sharp. So with this lens, I don't mind carrying it around all day long. With my 7200 2.8, I get a little tired carrying that thing all day long, and some of you know what I'm talking about, especially if you're a wedding photographer and you're working for 7 hours on a shoot. It's nice to be able to give your arm a break. Now, just a quick look around the set. What we'll see is my main light. My main light is right here, and it's obviously I'm using the Bowens. This is a 500 watt second Gemini, and I'm going to set this guy up at about this distance. Now, remember, it's kind of down lower than I normally would work, but I've got a short little 7-year-old boy. And he's going to stand about where this box is. First thing I always do is establish what my exposure is going to be. So I'll always take a good solid reading of light number 1, my main light, my key light. And in this case, I'm getting 16.0. 16 is my relative exposure for this entire shoot. I'll keep him at the same distance, so I don't have to worry about it. And then my accent lights will be relative to that. I've got them set just a little bit below that so that they're going to give me good solid accents, but I'm going to be up around 11 or so with the exposure on those accent lights. So let me just check those. Right there I'm at 11.3, so I'm at a minus 2/3 below what I'm shooting at, and this should match because I've got the same output. Yeah, so I'm at 11.2 there, 11.3 there. So these are below what I'm shooting at, and with him I think it's going to look nice and light and airy. The background, I don't have a light on it yet, but I want to take part of the session first with him and see how he does and see how it looks before we add in a fourth light. But I do have a fourth light standing by if I feel a need to light up that background once we shoot, and we might change his clothing halfway through the shoot, then introduce another light in the background and light him up a little bit more, make it a little bit higher key. So we'll grab Jack, we'll get him on the set, and we'll get started. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, now we're talking. Now we're talking. That little sister is pretty cute too, but this is Jack. Holy Toledo, this kid is the best. What grade are you in, by the way? Into the second? Do you have any girlfriends yet in the second grade? No. Yeah, you might be a little bit young for that, right? This time you're really happy. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Oh yeah, this kid's never had his picture taken before. Smile this time, big smile. Big smile. No, seriously, big smiles, go. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Let's do one more of those. Nice, nice. Oh, that's good. There you go. We want you to be relaxed, but let's turn you a little bit that way. Yeah, that's perfect. And your eyes right here at me. See my hand right here? I want you to look right there at my hand. Perfect. Oh, that's good. Raise your head up just a little bit for me. That's it, Jack. Good, good, good. And I'm going to turn you that way a little bit more. Yeah, but move forward a little bit. That way. Watch the triangle. Yeah, get on top. Yeah. There you go. Woohoo! Nice, nice, nice. That is a real nice little headshot right there for that guy. Now I'm liking that. Mr. Jackson. Look at that picture of this kid. I'm telling you, these are gorgeous. Gorgeous. First day of school. First day of school right here. Okay, turn to me just a little bit. Just a little, that's it. Yeah, just stand up normal now. Here you go. But I need to move you that much. Look at me, that much. Perfect. Perfect. You're almost done. Anytime you photograph children, you really kind of have to have an idea of what you're going to do. And in this case, we had drawn out this schematic for this lighting basically before we started. So I knew what we were going to do, and I knew the tools that we were going to use because I wanted to talk about them a little bit. Jack, as you could see, is an absolute angel. He was perfect. his expression, his clothing, his hair, his posture. He did what we asked him to do. So what that tells me as a working photographer is you want 7-year-olds, you know. 10-year-olds are a little different. 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they're all different. Every age group is a little bit different. And you've got little challenges here and there. I had no challenge with Jack whatsoever. Lighting-wise, we talked about that in the intro. We've got this one medium softbox on his face. We've got these twin strip lights, and then we added this background light. And this is this max light reflector back here with a grid set. We've got some warming gels back there clipped onto the reflector. And it really makes a difference back there, I think. I like the look a lot. It really warmed up that neutral gray, but I felt that it needed it. And then about half the session, we had Jen bring in a white reflector just to open up the shadow density a little bit. And the basic reason there is just to give us some options. You know, we can just give our client a few more different variations of things to look at and to pick from. Overall, I can't imagine this having gone any better. Creatively, there's a few things that we would do and can do and will do differently in the future. But for now, I wanted to do a solid 3-light setup, and then with the 4th as a background. And I got exactly what we were hoping to get. And once you establish exposure with that light meter, as you know, I preach that light meter every time we have a webinar. That light meter is everything to me, and I do exactly what that meter says, and my exposures out of the camera are dead on and require no editing whatsoever. So, hope this is helpful, and we'll get back to taking some questions. All right, well, we're back. You know, again, that kid, that Jack is my buddy. We had a great time together, as you could see. And there's an awful lot of, little small things that happen when you're photographing kids that you just sometimes you just let things go because you've got their attention for such a small amount of time. I did want to just jump on the questions right away. We've got a lot of questions, and there's a lot of people asking, and they're great questions. One asked about the metering. I hope that covered the metering question, how I like to use my meter. But I use my meter all the time. My 758 DR Sekonic light meter is my best friend, and I don't work really at all without it. Now there's a couple of, let me just answer this one thing. This is all great if you're working in the studio, but what about shooting in the child's home? Can you talk about scoping out the venues and what you're looking for? Yes, and I can't go into that now because I don't have any backup pictures to show you right now. However, I am planning on doing a shoot like that coming up for another webinar. So stay tuned and we'll do that. I recognize that in the studio it's all different and controlled than it is when you're in somebody's home. And we will go into somebody's home and we will do this. So great comment. Thanks for the question. But I really can't dig into much depth for your answer. Shooting at 16, and that's so he stays in focus. The answer is yep. And you know, anything like this kid, he's got such a face. I just want it to be crisp and sharp and bright, and I didn't want anything falling out of focus. So yeah, I was shooting at 16. How do I fire the strobes using my meter? Is it actually triggering the pocket wizard that you have on top of your camera? And then that question came up 3 times here. What's happened here is that I've got a transmitter built into my meter. My lights they are equipped with the Pocket Wizard receiver module that's just plugged in the back of my Bowens Geminis. So if you look on the website, you can see where it says the optional Gem module, GEM, which stands for Gemini. It's Pocket Wizard Gem module, and it comes with a little antenna. I've got those in all of my heads, on all my strobes, and so that way, then I can fire my lights remotely with my meter, and I just put a transmitter, and you can see my yellow 3+, Pocket Wizard on top of my camera, and I've just got it set to a channel that I turn on and fires all my lights at the same time. So they're all synchronized, and it works great. It's really the best way to work, especially with kids, because it means there's no cords on the floor. There's no sync cords going to my camera. And that's the thing that you've got to avoid is you're in a dark room with a lot of expensive equipment. The last thing you need is people tripping over small black wires that are on the floor, and that's what happens. You mentioned contrast earlier. How do you control contrast? Can it be controlled by light placement? Really, probably the question of the day. It can not only be controlled by placement, but primarily it's controlled by size of the light. Placement too, but primarily, you know, I've talked about this in previous webinars, and I've written books and articles about this before. your size of your light source is relative to its distance to any subject. And as you increase the size of the subject, it softens the edge of your shadows. So my ratios don't change. My contrast might change slightly, but it's because of the edge of that shadow becoming softer and softer and softer. It almost as if you can make a higher contrast scene or image more acceptable if it's a lower contrast transition from light to dark, if that makes any sense. So the answer is yes, you can do that with light placement and with light size. But if the ratio is still too much, if that shadow on his right side of his face was too dark for you, then bring in a reflector. And that's what we had. That's why Jen kept coming in and out with a reflector for us. She was just giving us an option so we could show the client the options with a higher ratio or a flatter ratio. It's all subjective at that point. So there's not really a right way or a wrong way to handle that contrast. The main light looked like it was feathered. It was feathered slightly forward. If I'm going to feather a light, usually I'll feather it forward, not backwards, unless I'm trying to use that same light to light my background. Then I'll feather it backwards. But if I feather it forward, I do find that the eye that's opposite the light tends to open up a little bit more, and I get a little bit more density in the eye. And you get a little bit better look to the face, for me it seems like anyway. So I will feather it forward a little bit. Great question. Which of your lights are strobes and which are constant? None of them were constant. All of these lights were strobes. Every one of them fired when my lights fired, when I took my pictures. So I didn't use any constant lights at all here. In fact, I don't use very many continuous light shoots. I just don't do very many. Sometimes I will if I'm doing jewelry and things where a long exposure is not a problem. But when you're photographing people, sometimes an exposure that's a little bit short, or that's a little bit long, can cause you a little bit of trouble with sharpness and not camera movement, but subject movement. But sometimes the continuous lights work really, really well on long exposures, because especially it's interesting. I one time had a shoot where my softbox had a seam in the fabric right down the center, and I couldn't get rid of the seam with my focus. So what I did is I just used constant lights, continuous lights, went to a 3-second exposure, and during the exposure I just moved my softbox like this. And I just kind of moved it a little bit. By moving it a little bit, it dodged the seam, so it never did stay sharp, so it never was seen on the finished picture. So I retouched it out. You can do it in post-production, but that takes too much time. Okay, so the lens I was using, yep, it's at 7200, thank you. The ratio on Jack was probably about a 4-to-1 ratio, maybe even a 5-to-1, but about a 4-to-1 ratio, I think. I am shooting with manual flash, and it worked out great. And my color balance, by the way, was daylight. So daylight is perfect for me. My strip lights were strobes, not continuous. And when I say 3-to-1 ratio, meaning there are 3 times more light on the face, on the highlight side, than on the shadow side. So 3-to-1 ratio is the opposite of a 1-to-3 ratio. Think about this. A 1-to-3 is that the shadow is 1/3 as bright as the highlight. A 3-to-1 ratio is the highlight's 3 times brighter than the shadow. Same thing. You just have to figure out who the one is. Is the eye level always the best level to shoot at? And the same goes with lights. Bring them lower or higher based on the height of the subject? That's a really good question, and it's one that kind of deserves a little thinking. The placement of my camera, here's an interesting thought. I used to shoot a lot of weddings, and I used to photograph a lot of brides, and I found out that my bridal portraits started looking better when I'm up close to a bride's face. I can be up high level, eye level, or even a little above, no problem. And as I back up, I bring my camera down a little bit. And as I back up further, I bring my camera down a little bit more. And it's interesting, by the time I'm shooting a full-length bride, my lens should be even with her bouquet, right with her waist. Because I don't want my camera tipping up or tipping down, if that makes any sense. I think I'll get the best picture of her if my camera's pretty level. So in a full-length shot, I want my camera down a little bit. Now, in terms of the light, that's again entirely up to you on where you want that light placed. But I always try to keep in mind that old rule about Da Vinci, about lighting at 45 degrees to the right or left and 45 degrees up, which gives you the best dimension, shape, form, and texture that there is, I think. So It's entirely up to you. It's a little bit subjective. If you've got subjects with larger noses or deep set eyes or things like that, then you can lower your light and bring it a little closer to your camera. But those heights work out pretty well. So for me, that seems to be not a rule of thumb, but at least a guideline to consider. Okay, so I think we're kind of caught up for a little bit on questions there. Let's move on to our next session. I think this is a wonderful little session with a girl named Sydney. Little Sydney is so great. She's turned 10, and she's just a pleasant little girl with a great disposition, beautiful face, great cheeks, great hair, and she's just real pleasant. She's just enjoyable to have around. So take a look at this little section with Sydney, and then come on back and we'll answer a few more questions, and then we'll let you get on with your day. Thanks, everybody. Be right back with you. Hey, everybody. For this section, we wanted to do something a little bit different. I got to meet our model, Sydney, who's 10, I think. What a gorgeous girl. And she's got this great hair and this great smile, and she's got these killer cheekbones. And so I thought for the cheekbones, it would be really ideal if we take the octa and up pretty high and let it come down on her face, which will create some little shadowing underneath the cheeks, which will give us a great portrait of a lot of depth and dimension in her face. And so I think it's the right choice here. We're going to have it a little bit high, but I've got to be careful because she's got long hair and her bangs in the front are pretty long. So I've got to be real aware that I've got to work hard to make sure that we keep that catch light in the eyes. Those eyes and those catch lights in the eyes are critical. And if you miss that, you kind of miss the picture. So you really have to work hard to make sure you get the eyes really looking great. Now, we're not going to use a fill or a reflector of any type below coming up. I don't think it's necessary for this. We'll see as we go through the shoot. If we think the ratio is too high, then we might do that. Secondary, we have our hair light, which is a strip bank. It's a strip 100 that's in a horizontal position, overhead and behind her, and with the egg crate grid on top. And I think it's going to be the right choice here, just to give us a nice, smooth, even light in her hair and on her shoulders and down a little bit on her arms. But it's at a position where it's out of the way and it's not interrupting the rest of the set. Then in the back, we've got this dark, gloomy blue background. And I'm putting a kind of a aquamarine blue gel on it with the backlight reflector. And I'm going to blast that in. I'm going to punch that color up and get some power through the gel. So I'm really going to have a deep, rich, nice, colorful background. I think it's going to look really great. So I think the set's ready. I think we're all set, and we'll grab Sydney and get this thing started. Okay, why don't you put your hands in your pockets? Just give us something to do with your hands. Leave your thumbs out. Yeah, perfect. Just relax. And can you just put all your weight on your left foot and just point your right foot right at me? Yeah, just like that. That's perfect. Wow, that looks nice. Let's fire off a test and take a look. She's like, you guys better do a good job here because I've been waiting all stinking day for this. Oh, that's good. Let's turn you that way a little bit. And now bring your head back this way. Just your head. Yep, more. Turn. Yeah. Good. Nice. And now up just a little and then just a half a step. Perfect. Oh, that's good. Woohoo! Look at this girl. She's awesome. You've been practicing, haven't you? Your smile, it's all practiced. You've been working on this for a while. You probably are working out with models all day, every day, getting ready for this, aren't you? Just lean toward me a little bit. Right there. That's it. Perfect. Good. Let's use that white again on this side just a little bit. Oh, you look good, kiddo. You look great. You got any teeth in there? There you go, good. Chin up a little bit and turn your head this way, just real pretty. So we're just getting a little bit of a red burst in the background, which really kind of opens up and kind of, I think, looks really good with her dress. Your eyes right in here, right down the barrel of the lens. Great. Turn your head a little bit more this way, and bring your shoulders this way to me, no, the other way, sorry. A little bit more, right there. And Jen, can you just push that hair off of her right shoulder for me? That's it, and bring your head that way, quite a bit. Right there, perfect. Your eyes right in here. Good. Hey, Mom, stand right over here behind Joe's shoulder. Stand right there and let her look right at you. Yeah, just look right at Mom. You know, these things, you get to develop these kind of photo shoots however you wish. And it's funny how I've talked in the past about set up your lighting schemes based on one light at a time. You have to start with one light. Then you have to add your second light. Then you have to add your third light. And each one has a right to exist. This one, thanks, Rick. Yeah, let me have this. This is that soft light reflector that you saw on the background. Somebody asked, can I show up close how the backlight is set up? This is the background light, and all it is, it's a bayonet mount on my Bowen's head that I mount, snap in place, and then all I do is just tip the head like that. Okay, so that this cone forces the light out and it comes right onto my background, and it does a really nice job of containing it. So these things come with these little clips on here. So these clips, I just put my gel right on the clip. I just clip my colored gels right there. So that's how I did that background, and it really works. I mean, that's kind of a. Oh, you got it. Thank you very much. Yeah, it works. It works really well, and it's real easy to control, and it's just terrific. So that's how the background was done. But you know, I've talked for a few months now about how much I'm really enjoying working with these octabanks, and these are big, nice. They're not just forgiving sources of light, but they're sources of light that do a really good job on the face. And you know, so many light sources just don't. But the octabanks always do, and they just give a good, fresh look. I noticed you keep chatting with the kids. Will this work with adults as well? Absolutely. My way of thinking is when I'm working, that subject, whoever I'm working with, will give me all their energy and attention and stay right with me as long as my energy is up. So it's almost like, you know, our camera operator for the day, Rick here, our producer. Rick, good, right here, Rick, turn your head this way, yeah, good, no, lower your head back down, right there, that's it. And can you just drop that shoulder, bring your chin, I'm just chattering, I'm just talking, and I'm doing that for one reason and one reason only, I'm keeping his attention. He is staying right with me, and his energy is the same as my energy. You're gonna get back the exact energy that you put out. If I'm sitting there going, okay, this is nice, turn your head, it's going to be a snoozer. It's going to be boring. Everybody in here is going, everybody's yawning in here. Oh. They're going to go to sleep on you, and they're going to be bored stiff, and they're not going to have a great experience with you. I don't care how good the pictures are. There's something about the experience, and you got to bring something. So bring your A game, be on time, have high energy, do a good job, and act like you love the kids. You have to. I mean, that's what this is all about. The question is, why not use a beauty dish instead of an octabank? It's a totally different light source. For her face, I probably could have gotten away with a beauty dish. For some kids, you can't. I think the octabank gave me a little bit more light that falls off a little bit better. The beauty dish is a great beauty light, but the octabank is a little bit more of an all-around, universal, sort of an all-purpose tool, if you will. And I just think it's pretty great. Do I play music when I'm shooting children, or are there other ways of making relaxing versus the environment? You know, I'm not sure I got the question, but yeah. No, I don't usually play music when kids are in the studio. I kind of want to make sure we get their attention. We don't have them for very long. We want to get it done and let them go. I've never been big on bribing kids. I know studio owners, myself, my first studio was in a shopping mall in Midland, Texas. I had an outside entrance, so clients didn't have to go into the mall, but I had an outside entrance. Well, in that same parking lot at my mall was a 31 Flavors ice cream place. And for a while, I went down and I would buy coupons for free ice cream cones, and I would give them to the kids, and I would promise them, if you're good, I'll give you this, you get free ice cream. It doesn't work. Bribing them gets you artificial smiles. It makes mom insane. You're sugaring up the kids that she's got to deal with when they leave. So that didn't work for me too much. But getting the kids' attentions and just having conversations with them, and as you can see how I interact with them, that's pretty much the way I do it. That's my interaction. Is I just try to be high energy, and I do chatter a little bit. How bright is the background light versus your key light? The answer to that is it depends on the density of the background itself, because when you have a different varying background brightnesses, X amount of light hits the background, but how much comes off? So a darker background less light will reflect off of that surface. So you kind of have to think about that, and you have to kind of think about what are they wearing versus what are you looking for. That final shot of Sydney with the red background, I thought was just a wonderful mix. Now what's tricky about that one, and I'm going to do a webinar on color gels and control of gels. You'll notice how deep and rich and vibrant that red looked from the gel. The reason it looked that good is because I made sure no stray light hit the background. If any light hit that background and then I tried to add color to it, it doesn't work. You get a pastel or you get a mixture of color. But if I can gobo that light off and make sure that it's skimmed off or scrimmed off to where that no light hits the background, then when I introduce the color, I get nothing but pure color coming through. So that's why that red looks so great on her background. And that's just something that I really try to do, and it really works well. One last question was, can I talk a little bit about pricing? And that question came through a while ago, and I wanted to save it till we got closer to the end here. I'm probably the last one you want to talk to about pricing for children, because my prices would be pretty high, pretty through the roof, because I really want to do it right. And I want to take my time, and I want to slow down and spend some time. These are three pretty fast shoots with these little ones. But to do it right, you really need to put some time into it. You need to do some wardrobe selection. If you're going to photograph in their home, that has to be taken into consideration. There's a lot to it. Here's one of the questions here. I'm not finished with the pricing question, but I want to jump on this other one before I show you something else. I have trouble keeping a large octabank upright because of the weight. Any suggestions? Yeah, there is. I work with Kupo grip equipment quite a bit. And there's you can get a small 20 or a 30-inch C-stand from Kupo. That's K-U-P-O. It's one of the brands that the Mac Group that sells and distributes in the U.S. And they have a boom arm support. So you get a little C-stand, you get a little small boom arm, and set your light on the end of the boom arm. And then get this boom arm support. It's just a little adjustable rod about that long that you can adjust up and down, and it clamps on your boom arm and it clamps on the C-stand. And you can adjust it wherever you want, and it holds everything tight and steady. It really works well. So when I've got an octabank or a big 30 by 40 or a larger softbox, one of those 4 by 6s, you get something that big, you can get yourself in real trouble with weight real fast. And things try to fall over on you in that case. So that's probably my best tip of the day on that. On the pricing thing, I did want to give you one little tip. I probably have 30 or 40 books just on photographing in the studio, and probably 10 of those are on photographing kids. There is a new book that's been out now, I think it came out in January, from a children's photographer named Allison Tyler Jones. Now, I have no connection to Allison Tyler Jones other than I've met her a few times, and she's a wonderful person. Great, great, great photographer. I don't get any kickback or anything, but I'll tell you, her new book called 100% Kid. It's called 100% Kid, A Professional Photographer's Guide to Capturing Kids in a Whole New Light. This is the finest book I've seen on children's photography. It is brilliant. And she approaches her kid shoots as a commercial photographer might approach them. And they're fun, they're whimsical, they're not cutesy, but they're terrifically done, beautifully lit, and she's got a whole segment in there on pricing. So that circles me back to the pricing question. That was the reason I wanted to talk about that book. Her book is really good on that. So I just wanted to throw that out, and it's on Amazon, and you can find it everywhere in camera stores. Allison Tyler Jones. But yeah, so you know, the fun part for me doing these webinars is, you know, we do a little bit of research and a little prep work here, and I think doing these helps make me a better photographer. Some of your questions and some of the things that you people send me, and I get notes and emails all the time, and I think all of that stuff makes me a better photographer, and I think that's what this is all about. We're all in this together. Let me answer this last question, and we'll let everybody get out of here pretty quick. You were using a 70 to 200. What were you set at? I'm assuming you mean the focal length. For most of those focal lengths, they were varying slightly. I don't think I was ever out near 70, but I was closer to 100 or longer in most cases. I like to work at that longer focal length. I prefer to always be 135 or longer for photographing faces especially. It doesn't work out sometimes with full lengths and things like that. But with little kids, I can get away with a lot more because I can get more of them in the frame at a longer focal length than I can an adult. So it kind of works out pretty well. But for the most part, let's all keep one thing in mind here as we start our weekend. Photography is what I like to think of as the subjective use of an objective craft. Right? It's all about opinions, and you guys get to have your opinions of what you like and what you don't like. I'm going to show work through here for the next, few months that you guys look at, and you might not like my work at all, and that's okay. I might not like yours, and that's okay too. It's all about you and what you like and what your client likes. It's all about your taste and their taste. And I think that's the things that we have to stay focused on. If there's some information here that's helpful for you, great. If there's something that you don't agree with, that's okay too. This is not what we do, and the way I do things is not for everybody. But I try to present the information in an objective way as much as I can, not a subjective way. So certainly when it comes to light quantity, I'm very serious about my metering. When it comes to light quality, I understand shadows, highlights, edge of shadows. I understand all that pretty well. But when it comes to how we put it all together and make a portrait come to life, you guys get your opinion. You guys get to decide what you like and what you don't like. So hope that's been helpful for you. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions. I will just throw in a couple of last minute things. Just again, all the stuff that we're doing here, all of the videos that I'm creating, content here on Educationally through our webinars and just our regular video productions that we're doing, will all be posted on bowenstv through our YouTube channel. So please subscribe, and you'll get, these are just free videos. They're going to be out there all the time. And then our teambowens.com blog, of course, as I keep saying, that's very active. So please keep checking in with us from time to time and let us know how we're doing. And if you've got suggestions, send those in to us as well. We need ideas and suggestions nonstop. So whatever we can do to help you make better pictures, that's what we're all about. So I hope this has been helpful. I'll sign off and say thanks to everybody for joining us. And again, I'm Tony Corbell, and hope it's been helpful for you. Thanks, and look forward to seeing you again soon.